Okay, it's 1 o'clock. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the July 2nd, 2020 Harbor District Commission meeting. Melanie, can you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Brennan.
Here.
Commissioner Chang Corrali.
Present.
Commissioner Lorenz. Oh, Commissioner Lorenz.
Here.
Commissioner Ryrie.
Here.
Commissioner Mateusz.
Here.
Great, thank you. Before we move to public comment, I want to again thank our staff, everybody working at home and at our harbors for their efforts in keeping our agency's business moving forward. And I want to give a shout out about a recent story in the Half Moon Bay Review about the fiscal health of the Harbor District. The reporter wrote that while many government agencies in San Mateo County are grappling with budget deficits as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, the San Mateo County Harbor District is largely avoiding any shortfalls that will negatively impact its budget in the upcoming fiscal year. And this good news is due to the fine fiscal leadership over many years by our general managers, our staff, and in particular by Commissioners Virginia Chang Corrali and Tom Mateusz, both of whom have extraordinary credentials for overseeing our finances. So thank you very much, everyone. Now to begin the agenda, we'll move to public comment on any item of public interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of our Harbor District that is not on the regular agenda, and each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. Commissioner Brennan, this is public comment. Is Commissioner Brennan going to speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I just have a question, which is if the public is allowed to speak, which I understand at previous special meetings, the public has been prevented from making public comment, and I'm very happy that we're going to allow public comment tonight per the Brown Act, or today, I should say, since it's 1:03 right now in the afternoon. What I want to know is why are the commissioners being prevented from making comments? Because we should also be able to make comments. And do I need to do that now during public comment, or are we going to also have commissioner comments?
We'll be having commissioner comments during the agenda items.
I would like to make a comment that is on an item unrelated to what's on the agenda.
Maybe I can take some advice on when the appropriate time during the meeting is for that.
I am fine with making it as a public comment if that's necessary. So that's a question for council, not for the board president. Thank you.
So if Commissioner Brennan wants to make a comment under about something that's not on the agenda, I suppose that as long as the chair is fine with it, it would be fine for her to make a comment at this time.
Sure. I don't think that we usually do that during special meetings, but if Commissioner Brennan feels strongly about this, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
There's a lot of
there seem to be problems with the Zoom meeting again. I keep getting these flashing messages.
We sent out an email yesterday encouraging all the commissioners to call in and work with Lizzie in advance if they were concerned at all about having technical problems during the meeting. I hope you don't have any, but if you do, you know, there is a phone number that you can call in on.
All I'm saying is I want to confirm that you can hear me because I have a flashing message saying I'm muted, unmute, this, that, and the other thing, and it's very confusing. So thank you. I assume you can hear me. Can you please confirm?
I hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to start my comment now. So RWG is the district's counsel. That's our law firm. And my understanding is that today they're going to be, they've placed an item on the agenda which relates to a Brown Act violation letter that was received from, I don't know if I pronounce this right, Canade, O'Toole, Flicks, and Olson without, and they placed this item on the agenda without discussing with the board first the letter. So I'm concerned that RWG, our law firm, is overstepping their authority by not discussing the letter that the district received from this law firm regarding a Brown Act, or I should say multiple Brown Act violations, with the board in advance of sending a written response to Canade, O'Toole, Flicks, and Olson. In the past, the district has always, there's been a meeting with the commissioners if there's a threat of litigation or a letter sent regarding Brown Act violations, so that we're informed about it and so that the board can then give direction to council about what the proper response should be or what our options are. And so that we also understand what the Brown Act concerns were. That didn't happen in this case. And so I'm concerned about our council making decisions and taking action for the board without checking in with the board first. And as we all know, council works for the board, not the other way around. Agenda item D is a cure and correct only for one of several recent Brown Act violations. Public comment has not been properly noticed in recent special meeting agendas, and the public has been repeatedly denied the opportunity to make public comment on concerns not included on the special meeting agendas. And I'm specifically talking about two special meetings that just happened most recently. The public has been cut off by the board president before their speaking time was complete because she did not agree with their perspective. And so that's why we're having this meeting today, because of mistakes made by our board president. Today I sent an email to the general manager regarding, I'm not quite done yet, I'm almost done, regarding.
You're going beyond your time.
I'd like to finish if I could. I'm almost done.
Go right ahead.
Today, I sent an email to General Manager Jim Pruitt regarding concerns about a string of Brown Act violations that occurred at the June 4 and June 15 special meetings, including a Brown Act violation that occurred in closed session. Additionally, I've also received several complaints from members of the public about the number of special meetings the board president has been calling, and it's been pointed out that the district is not following Robert's Rules of Orders regarding special meetings. According to Robert's Rules, a special meeting should only be called if something important comes up that must be dealt with before the next regular meeting, or if some particular business matter is important enough that it needs to be the exclusive reason for the entire meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion on those matters. There was a lot of speculation there that I'm not going to go into. All right, so now we're going to move to public comment, and I see some hands up. I'll move to the named hands up first and then to the phone numbers. April Vargas.
Hello, commissioners. I appreciate the ability to speak today. I want to bring your attention to a Mercury News article that was published, I believe, yesterday, citing that 6 of the 10 most polluted beaches in the state of California are in San Mateo County, and 3 of those beaches are on Harbor District property. I understand that the district's been working with the RCD on water quality issues, which I think is very commendable. However, it seems that more needs to be done. In the article, cited a beach, Cowell Beach in Santa Cruz, that had been on the list in the past, and they wanted to get off the list, so they did a lot of infrastructure work and additional scientific evaluation and took action, and they're not on that list this year. So even with the difficult budget times now, I believe that a priority for the Harbor District needs to be cleaning up these beaches rather than potentially spending money in South San Francisco to be supporting projects on land that the Harbor District does not own. So I would encourage you to continue to work with our CD and find other ways that we can get better science support, better ideas, and better ways to redo the infrastructure to clean up our beaches. Thanks very much.
Thank you, April. I agree with you, and we need to get the county involved more on these issues. I see another hand up, James Lee.
Hi, before the countdown timer begins, I have a question. Are we allowed 3 minutes if we were not given opportunity for public comment as requested at the June 4th meeting or the June 15th meeting?
You have 2 minutes to speak, James.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that normally at Harbor Commission meetings, we've been given 3 minutes. Considering you've been sent multiple complaints about your Brown Act violations and efforts to limit public participation, I think it'd be wise for you to stop this practice, especially since this isn't a very well-attended meeting. You don't have time concerns. Just to start, the reason this meeting is being held at all is because, again, the board president violated the Brown Act multiple times at the June 4th special meeting held to censure Commissioner Brennan. You violated your own rules by calling for this item to be considered at a special meeting in the first place. I remember, board president, you opining at a finance committee meeting that these meetings have a lack of equity built into them because only a certain privileged few can attend them. So for you to be setting up multiple special meetings, 3 in a row in the month of June, to hold these non-essential items and to spend staff time working on these petty issues, inter-board conflicts, is really unacceptable. And for you to thank the staff, I think honestly the best way for you to thank staff would be to stop these special meetings altogether. I've also just wanted to point out that at the June 15th special meeting, there was no report out from the closed session. And so the public doesn't have details as to what went on, but based on the agenda item itself and what happened later after that closed session was held, it's obvious that the board majority directed district staff to end the district's investigation into a retaliation complaint against them. This is highly unacceptable. It speaks to a huge amount of conflict of interest. And just real quickly, I noticed that the district council said in that meeting that Commissioner Brennan was operating in her personal interest as opposed to the board's interest. I would like to know how the board was behaving at that time when they voted to end the investigation into their own retaliatory behavior. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a hand up, Leonard.
This is my first time using a Zoom meeting, so I don't know if I'm doing anything right. Can you hear me?
I hear you. I hear you. Go right ahead and speak.
I don't see my own picture here. The agenda item that I see here is not a proper agenda item for Brown Act cure and correct action. The required way to handle the cure and correct when a previous issue was discussed in violation of the Brown Act is you have to reconsider it de novo as if the previous discussion did not occur at all. So the agenda item as written where it says consideration of the board's June 4th action, and it ends with consider whether to make a motion to rescind or not. That's not a proper cure and correct. You would have to have the whole discussion again, and basically you would have to act as if the June 4th agenda item never took place, and so the resolution was never adopted at that time. That's all for now.
Thank you for your comment. Allison, I see your hand up.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, great, thanks. Hey, so I think it's great that there are so many people interested in the process, and I think we should trust the process. All the Brown Act comments, I think the Brown Act is very complicated. I mean, I think it's great to have the public comments about what all of us citizen lawyers think. I will trust the board counsel, however, on those issues. I'm very impressed overall with the leadership of the Harbor District and the commission, following it since back when Mr. Tucker was the president, and other people that I know personally. And I want to say that it was just referenced by one of the speakers that the board conflict is petty or not important and shouldn't be addressed. But I'd like to say that the Board of Supervisors, it's at their level of awareness, and they have weighed in on this. And it's very important that the public trust the process, and that we also trust the process of an inquiry into these allegations, the sexual harassment allegations. Specifically, I attended a Board of Supervisors meeting a few weeks ago where Mr. Lee spoke eloquently, as he always does, but it was referenced that this was a sexual harassment, and that Ms. Brennan wasn't being treated fairly, hadn't received justice, and even said that in the month of Pride, it kind of smacked of, irony because of sexual orientation. And I think that it does a disservice to all of those movements to pin all those labels onto a situation that is being addressed by a professional board and a professional process. I think we should trust the process. I think the Board of Supervisors is right. I think this commission has been handling it properly, including the board president. And April Vargas, I'm about to stop talking, but 3 of those situations are related in Pillar Point, and we should address them all together. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand up from a caller whose phone number ends in 7191.
Yes, good afternoon. I am, just one moment here. I'm sorry. I have not been cut off at previous meetings here, and because I guess I've stayed within my time. And if people stay within the topics, there's generally no issues. In the issue of the Commissioner Mateusz versus Brennan, this issue has been dealt with and is actually more of a waste of time and money. One thing about Commissioner Sabrina Brennan is she is consistent. She is consistently unable to tell the truth, consistent in creating fiction to keep herself in the headlines, consistent in not understanding the difference between an elected official and micromanagement, consistent in her harassment of other commissioners and harbor administrative staff, and consistent about creating false narratives such as comments made by the district the second time she was removed as commission president. That is a role unique to Commissioner Brennan and in the history of the Harbor District. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a caller whose phone number ends in 3602.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, this has been addressed by several people before me, but we'll go to the June 15th meeting. Your board called for a special session. After the opening comments, the board went into closed session, but did not properly notice what it was they were going into closed session about. They stated it was anticipated litigation, but they did not provide the required explanation of what kind of litigation, who was litigating, what the litigation was about. In fact, in response to a PRA request, staff has asserted that there's not a single document, communication, or anything that relates to any kind of litigation that was being anticipated. But there was a district-initiated investigation into the retaliation against Commissioner Brennan by the 3 commissioners who are against her. You can pretty much guess that that's what happened. Is the district manager stated, "I was notified via email by General Counsel on June 15th that the board directed me to terminate the investigation and to terminate the contract with the Shaw Law Group." Obviously, this happened in closed session, but yet after that closed session, Ms. Swearing came out and basically lied to the public by stating that no action was taken in closed session. These are all criminal actions. The Brown Act specifies that these are criminal actions which are misdemeanors. It's a misdemeanor for any of you to participate in that meeting knowing that it should not have happened. There were 3 Brown Act violations. These will be addressed, and if they aren't addressed properly, they will go to the court. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think that that's all the hands I see up. Lizzie, if you can confirm that, we'll move to the consent calendar.
There are no more comments at this time.
Thank you. Okay, the only item we have on the consent calendar today are the minutes for the June 4th, 2020 special meeting. And I will make a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Commissioner Brennan?
I've been muted and I wanted to ask, this is very frustrating with all this muting, so I apologize, but I wanted to ask to please pull the consent item off for discussion. Thank you.
All right, we'll pull the consent item off. We have a motion and a second, so we'll just move it to the end of the meeting. And we'll move to the discussion now. The discussion item, first discussion item is consideration of the board's June 4th, 2020 action to adopt resolution number 20-08, by which it censured Commissioner Sabrina Brennan for inappropriate conduct during the April 15th, 2020 regular board meeting of the San Mateo County Board of Harbor Commissioners. So we will be discussing this item. On June 3rd, the Harbor Commission voted to censure Commissioner Brennan for disruptive conduct during the April 15th board meeting. The censure reflects the consensus of the commission that Commissioner Brennan failed to maintain the highest standards of personal and professional conduct. The commission found that she had failed to follow proper parliamentary procedure and instead continued speaking out over other commissioners and disrupted the meeting. The commission noted she was found out of order on 3 separate occasions, and her conduct was found to have brought significant negative attention to the Harbor District. As censuring a commissioner is a serious action that should be made with careful consideration and diligence. And in the spirit of making sure the public is heard and resolving this matter in a reasonable and amiable manner, I've called this special meeting to provide the public another opportunity to speak on the matter related to the censure of Commissioner Brennan. I'm inviting members of the public to, again, address this issue if they would like. Each person's comment will be limited to 2 minutes. If at the end of the public comments, a commissioner wants to change his or her position on the resolution, I will entertain a motion to rescind it. If the board does not take an alternative action, the resolution will stand. Out of fairness to everyone, I again ask that the comments be related to the censure motion. And we will start with the public first.
We have a raised hand from James Lee.
Mr. Lee, go ahead. Mr. Lee?
Mr. Lee, you've been unmuted for comment.
I was muted and not allowed to unmute. So real quickly, this censure does not reflect consensus, as was just said. It reflected a 3-2 vote held at an emergency special meeting. I just want to point out too that multiple people who attended that special meeting and spoke out in opposition to the censure motion are not able to attend this one. And multiple people who have spoken out against Commissioner Brennan in the past and were not able to attend the last one are able to attend this one. So I just want to make sure that that context is set here. Real quickly, this is re-victimization. As Leonard spoke out originally and during the general comment period, this is not a proper cure and correct for the Brown Act violation that you committed on June 4th. And to hold this meeting where people who have spoken out against the commissioner in the past have a second opportunity to do so, have a second opportunity to relitigate what you consider a closed matter, is not acceptable unless, as Leonard said, you start from the beginning. And that's not being done here. So this is just another opportunity to waste staff time and resources during COVID on a censure motion and to deal with inter-board conflicts. This is unacceptable and a poor use of your time and an insult to staff, to other commissioners, and to the members of the public who are here and who have made the time to be here. I also want to point out that in regards to this censure motion, as folks have pointed out at the previous meeting, other commissioners who sit on this board right now have done the very exact same thing that Commissioner Brennan was censured for at the time, including speaking out over other people, interrupting, forbidding other commissioners from getting their turn to speak, and none of them have been censored. This is clearly retaliatory, and your investigation should be reopened, and the board should not have a say in whether or not that investigation is closed or reopened. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another comment by Leonard. Leonard, can you unmute?
Okay. I don't know how many of the commissioners or the public attending are aware of this. I was on various elected boards for 21 years and involved with various government agencies for many years before that. And in all of that time with all of those different boards, I have never seen the censure of an elected official. I've never seen a censure done, period. This axe grinding here is just astounding. And as a previous speaker just said, I think a total waste of time and energy and money, and you should just drop it and move on. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a caller whose phone number ends in 3602.
Yeah, this meeting is definitely, John Allen, this meeting is definitely a complete waste of time. You will be, this will be ending up before a judge because you have done nothing to cure or correct the violations of the Brown Act. You've done it in a cowardly manner. You've kept the actual details of what's happening today from everybody that's participating. All of you might wonder why the letter that generated this reason for this reading isn't part of the agenda, or why the response letter that the Harbor District lawyer wrote to my lawyer isn't part of the agenda. It's simply because Nancy Raring, Virginia Chang Corrali, and Tom Matucci do not want you to know. They want to control the narrative. They want to hide as much as they can. They do everything that they can behind closed doors. They break Brown Act rules in closed session. They use staff to cover for them. They have their lawyer lie for them. Ms. Ortiz, it has been asserted by staff members that there was nothing, that you stated that there was nothing to report out of closed session, yet there obviously something happened in closed session. This has got to stop. You guys, you basically have control of the board. You can act, not much anything anybody can do to stop you from exacting your retribution on Sabrina Brennan. Tom Matucci has got sexual issues that he likes to share with lots of people. You're okay with it. There's not much that can be done about that. But you do not need to violate the Brown Act. You do not need to stifle commentary. You do not need to hide things in closed session. You don't need to lie about what happened in closed session. You should start acting proud of what you're doing and put it out there. Why don't you just go ahead and make available to the people who are here right now the documents that caused this very closed session? Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. We have a caller with their hand raised. The phone number ends in 4650.
My name is Brian Oberfelt. I'd like to thank the commissioners whose interests lie in what is best for the community and not themselves. Nancy Raring, you have exemplified this in your impartial judgment and bravery since your inception as Harbor Commissioner. The Coastside community is lucky to have you, and I personally applaud your effort. Calling out bad behavior can be difficult, but in the case of Sabrina Brennan, very necessary. Sabrina has such a long list of inappropriate behavior, it would be unjust not to censure her. Sabrina Brennan has had the opportunity to be board president twice. and has made history having to step down or be removed twice. In 2015, the first time she lost the presidency, she threatened interim General Manager Glenn Lazoff to make his life a living hell if he did not follow her orders. Fellow Commissioner Robert Bernardo called her a walking lawsuit. Bernardo said Sabrina had actively worked to pit groups against each other related to such topics as who will run the annual Maverick Surf Contest, and that Sabrina has led to skyrocketing legal bills for the district. Lazoff got a settlement and left because of her bullying. In August of 2017, Brennan's actions in a joint special committee made up of members of South San Francisco City Council and San Mateo County Harbor Commission led to an investigation by the DA into a possible Brown Act violation. In Sabrina's attorney's letter to the Assistant DA Al Serrato, he indicated that Sabrina would not behave in this manner again. Serrato said such assurance prevented the DA from taking further action. I believe they should have prosecuted. In March of 2018, in a Harbor District meeting, President Sabrina Brennan and VP Ed Lorenas made a motion without letting the rest of the board know they changed the resolution. They literally got caught slipping the secretly changed resolution into the commissioner's packets. Sabrina was removed again as president, and Ed Lorenas was removed as vice president due to this and other accumulative inappropriate behavior. Wow. In July of 2019, Sabrina made a motion, seconded by Ed.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you for your comments. We have another hand up here, April Vargas.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on this issue. Unfortunately, in the few meetings of the Harbor District I have attended, I've witnessed what I consider to be unprofessional behavior from other board members. I think it would be very important for the whole Harbor Commission to take stock of their interactions with the public and with each other and really do better. I understand that Sabrina's comments were more or less out of control during that meeting. However, she was trying to be heard and was seeking justice. My understanding is the way that her complaint and the process by which it's been addressed or not addressed has been conducted does not seem fair or impartial to me. I'm not trying to make excuses for why she behaved the way she did, which I think was counterproductive, quite honestly, and I've talked to her about this, but the whole culture of the Harbor Commission for the last 30 years has been very problematic. And it really, all the commissioners really need to make a commitment to do better and let everybody be heard, not be cutting people off in public comment, and taking seriously the very, very serious allegations of sexual harassment, and not follow what unfortunately in our culture seems to be the culture of blaming the victim. I don't think that censuring Sabrina Brennan is really going to change anything except to be seen as a retaliatory action against her. I am, again, disturbed by the vitriol in which the people who have shown their feelings. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Lizzie, is it correct that there are no more, oh no, I see Mike Elefano. Your hand is up?
It's up, yes.
You've been unmuted for comment.
There you go.
Go right ahead, Mr.
Thank you.
Elefano.
So, my experience with Sabrina Brennan and her actions have been, it's been a long history, and to watch the Harbor District finally call her out and make her accountable for her actions, I fully support. Unfortunately, Sabrina has used the Harbor Commission as her, vehicle to push her own personal agenda for items that are important to her, while neglecting items that are very important to what she's elected to do, which is represent the Harbor District. Sabrina Brennan is one of the worst bullies I've seen. I actually I witnessed the complaint that was filed with the DA of her physically shoving patrons and then shoving Brian Overfelt in his bar because she had an issue with something going on with the venue that evening. And to watch the DA allow her to do that and not prosecute was appalling, because if it was a male that did that to a female, he would have been arrested. So I find her actions to be unbelievable as an elected official. She's cost the district hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, settlements. I mean, the bullying of the employees is unbelievable. And to allow this to keep going, to allow her to still be an elected official just blows me away. This is the reason why so many people talk about dissolving the Harbor District, and her actions make it clear that that's the direction the Board of Supervisors wants to go with. But it's unfortunate, because I would love to keep local control, and I think the only way to make this successful is if she's no longer reelected. So I can't wait till November when she's done and she won't get elected again.
All right, I want to thank everyone for their participation in today's meeting. I think, Lizzie, we don't have any more public comment.
President Reiring, we do have a few raised hands from callers. I believe one has already spoken before, but there are 3 others.
All right, let's see. I'm wondering why my list has. Aha, okay, I see a caller 7191, please. Phone number ending in 7191. You're unmuted.
Good afternoon. Brennan has been a thorn in the side of the community since Mavericks, and to recently placing the rainbow gay flag above the Stars and Stripes. This is a total disrespect for our nation. More money and more time has been wasted on this woman, and the only way that this will ever stop is going to be her removal. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a caller with the phone number ending in 5478. You've been unmuted for comment.
Hey, that's me. My name is Matt Allen. I've been an El Granada resident for 47 years, and on ABC television, for the world to see, Sabrina Brennan displayed conduct unbecoming of a public servant. She is no longer performing her duty to serve the community and the public. She's pursuing personal issues in a public board. She was free to pursue criminal action for the complaint that she had, and that was concluded. If she's unhappy with the outcome, it should not be pursued further during board minutes. She should not be allowed to disrupt meetings, and the way she's been disruptive, shutting down the ability of the board to conduct business, has been observed by higher ups. Don Horsley said if they couldn't get their job done and conduct business, that they would have to consider stepping in to intervene. I don't want to lose local control. I support the censor, and I think you should uphold it and not be intimidated by this menace to our community and her supporters, some of which don't even live in the area but call in posing as local residents. So please stick with it. You're doing the right thing. She has acted badly and in bad faith, and I think it needs to be shown on her record, and she should not be allowed to act this way during meetings. Public's put our trust in our board, and most of you are doing a great job, but what I saw on television and on a YouTube separate meeting, inability and unwillingness to follow the rules and just keep speaking until she can forcefully push her way and get what she wants. It's an embarrassment. Please stick with the censure.
Thank you. We have a caller up, Chris Liang. You've been unmuted for comment.
Great. Thanks for hearing me during this important meeting. The reason this meeting is being held is because Board President Nancy Reiring violated the Brown Act multiple times at the June 4th special meeting held to censure Commissioner Brown. The Harbor District violated their own rules by calling for this to be considered at a special meeting in the first place. There's no valid reason for this to be considered at a special meeting. This is a violation of the district's own rules for a special meeting, and also a violation of the Brown Act, as special meetings are less accessible to the public. I just find it really abhorrent, Nancy, that you allow these conversations to veer so far off topic and allow all these personal attacks against your fellow commissioner. Your pick and choose attitude about what you allow people to say during these meetings and the amount of time that you've allowed them to speak in the past is shameful. Please consider the way that you're conducting these meetings and do a better job. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have another member of the public, Danny Dimas.
You've been unmuted.
Hello. Yes. Hi. My name is Danny. I just wanted to say my family's had a boat in the harbor for decades, close over 40 years. Still there. I wasn't really getting involved until I saw a video of Miss Brennan and quite a rant. And really just kind of life happens and you don't really want to get involved. So I thank you, all the commissioners, for being involved. But when I heard that the county was thinking, about dissolving the board, we need that due to the dysfunction of it. So I did a little research, and it seems, it basically seems that there is Ms. Brennan is the cause of all this dysfunction. I'm not sure if she's up for re-election. I would not like to see her there. Overall, I would like to see the censure go through. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I see a caller, Jeff Clark. You can, let's see, are you unmuted yet?
You've been unmuted, Mr. Clark.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please repeat what?
There
You got me?
you are. Yes, we hear you.
Fantastic. Well, I came on because I wanted to get Brian's finished message out there. In July of 2019, Sabrina made a motion seconded by Ed Lorenas for taxpayers to pay for her trip to Hawaii. Thank goodness that did not pass. Then her most recent tirade in April of this year in an online Harbor District meeting where she was out of order, yelling words I won't even repeat here in this public forum, or any public forum for that matter. Sabrina Brennan, twice removed from president, making history, a long history of inappropriate behavior, costing taxpayer and other politicians too much time and money. I support censuring her to protect the coast side and the general public from her awful behavior and bullying. I've had my business here in the harbor. My family's been in this community since the 60s. I started the Mavericks event, and we ran successful events all the way up until the last one, and then we found obstacles being thrown at us by Sabrina constantly. And since she got involved with the contest or stopping the contest, it has not run for 5 years now. And censoring her would be the right thing to do for this community. I want to thank the Harbor District and Commissioner Reiring, Karali, and Mateusz for standing up for what's right.
Thank you. I think, let's see, wait, little hand popped up here. Cal. We have a caller, Cal, that we need to unmute.
Cal, you've been unmuted for comment.
Thank you, board, and for the efforts of those who believe that reducing liabilities of your district is an essential part of being functional and protecting not only the industry here in fishing, as well as business investors. It's hard enough to make money in a business. And we do have, you know, this significant liability in our community, Sabrina Brennan, by her special interest or whatever it is, that she's like an angry child that doesn't accept an adult world of managing businesses and helping businesses to grow on the community. The question I have for the board for you to think about in the community is, what has been the financial impact since Sabrina Brennan has been in office? And if it comes up with the same millions of dollars that I'm seeing, and it's even close to that, I think she should resign today. I think that would be the most cost-effective solution to restoring not only business, but the community. Her misrepresentation alone, not to mention the violations of the Brown Act and not following the rules, has given an out of control image of the board of the Harbor District. And by that out of control perspective that is now a public perspective, there are many people who want her to resign or have the DA come in and finally press charges and file those charges against her for what she's done to destroy the economic community. That is a personal liability that has been carried on into the board, the Harbor District Board. And we're tired of paying it. Please support the resolution.
Thank you. I'm going to get Lizzie to concur on this, that there are no more hands raised in the public.
That's correct, President Reiring.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you. Then we'll move on to commissioner comments on this agenda item. If anyone has any additional comments to make on this matter, please raise your hand. So I don't see any I don't see any commissioner hands raised. Is that correct? Commissioner Brennan.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Wow. Some of the big wave surfing community that is angry with me really showed up today. I got to congratulate Commissioner Chang Karali for stirring the pot and getting the haters to show up at the meeting today. That's okay, I've heard it before. So this isn't the first time I've been attacked by some of the men in the big wave surfing community locally. Fortunately, not everybody is on the same page. I'd also like to point out that Mike Alifano, who made a comment earlier, was recalled from the fire district on the coast side. There was a lot of misinformation presented by the public today, and it was a pretty vicious attack, and it reminds me of a previous meeting that happened a few years ago. There is some anger, apparently, still lingering, because I fought very hard to get women included in big wave surfing, and that includes a Maverick surf competition. I also fought to get equal pay for women in big wave surfing, and I was successful along with 4 other women in achieving that goal back in 2018. There's clearly some anger amongst some of the male big wave surfers, or I'll say their fans, because actually I don't think anybody today that's participated in the meeting is, I'm doubtful that they're still competing. I'm quite sure Jeff isn't competing any longer at that level. But I hear what you're saying, and I understand that you're still angry. I would like to ask our lawyer to clarify for everybody why this item is on the agenda and to speak to the letter that was received from Kanade, O'Toole, Flick, and Olson. So if there could be some clarity provided regarding that, I'd appreciate it.
Would you like, President Reiering, would you like me to respond to Commissioner Brennan?
If it's appropriate, Tricia?
Yeah, I don't think I could add anything other than what the president said at the beginning of the meeting, and just an effort to resolve any concerns amicably and reasonably. The president called a special meeting to give the public another opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Tricia. I see another commissioner hand up here, Edmundo Lorenas.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I really don't know where to begin, but I'll start with the agenda as it was sent out. The agenda as it describes this topic doesn't help the public understand what this meeting is about. Why are we revisiting this? It doesn't say anywhere that it has to do with letters received. So I do have a question for our attorney relating to that. Is can you, or maybe the board president, can you tell us exactly why this meeting was called? And if there's a good explanation, if there's any explanation for it, why weren't we provided with any documents so we as commissioners and also the public could understand the background?
President Reiering, would you want me to respond? The response, I think, is the same. The president explained why the meeting's being called was to give the public another opportunity to speak.
That's correct. Do we have any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Brennan?
Yeah, thank you. So I did want to just reiterate that this is one of a number of Brown Act violation concerns, and I did send a letter about that today, which I hope will be attached to the agenda website posting. And I did ask the general manager to make that letter available to the full board as well as the public, obviously. I'd also like to point out that at the Board of Supervisors meeting where they discussed the fact that the district is due for their LAFCO municipal service review, which by the way is supposed to happen every 4 years like clockwork. Sometimes it doesn't happen every 4 years, but it's supposed to. So where that municipal service review was discussed, the Board of Supervisors offered to pay for a facilitator to help this board. And during their comments, I think it was actually Supervisor Horsley said, well, I think the Harbor District should take us up on our offer to hire a facilitator to help the board with their board dynamic issues. He said, I doubt that those, the board majority will take me up on it or take us up on it. But the Board of Supervisors did approve paying for a facilitator for the district. Now, if there are problems with board dynamics that are getting in the way of the work of the district, it makes perfect sense for the board to decide to bring in a facilitator to help. That is an obvious thing that needs to happen and should have already happened. And we have done that in the past and it's been helpful. And other districts do it. It's not uncommon. But our board majority and our board president chose to ignore that suggestion and that offer to pay for facilitation and instead decided to censure me. The Board of Supervisors didn't recommend censuring me. They never said a word about making a recommendation to censure me. That was something spirited by the 3 commissioners who I made a retaliation complaint against in 2019. And the investigation into that complaint was occurring. It was delayed, it was occurring. And when the commissioners were asked to be interviewed by the investigator, that is when they decided to censure me. That is when they decided to end the contract with the law firm that was hired to do the investigation per our harassment retaliation policy, hired by the district. All of this stuff happened in closed session. I was told about it by the district's general manager in 3 emails, which I've also provided. And clearly there was a Brown Act violation in closed session. So it seems like these things are just piling up. And, you know, we need to clean up our act here. And I'm not going to resign. I have no interest in resigning. No one's going to intimidate me into resigning, not if I've lasted this long with all that I've had to deal with over the years. I have PTSD from serving in these conditions. I've been sexually harassed by Commissioner Mateusz, and I've been retaliated against and kind of on an ongoing basis for years. There have been a lot of other really awful things that have happened while I've served, but we don't have enough time to get into that today. Thank you.
President Reiring? I think it would be helpful to note that it is against the law to discuss information that was disclosed in the closed session. And just to make it really clear that the board absolutely complied with Government Code 5497.1 in holding its closed session. I just wanted to make a clear statement about that.
Thank you, Tricia. I appreciate that. I know that there were a lot of there were a few comments today about malfeasance and breaking Brown Act regulations and all kinds of things. I am absolutely confident that we are not in violation of the Brown Act or any other code that we that we uphold. So I'll just state that for the record. Commissioner Brennan.
I'm unmuting. Okay, thank you. The whole purpose of the meeting today is a cure and correct for a Brown Act violation. So clearly a Brown Act violation has occurred. And I'd also like to state for the record that I am not speaking out of turn about a Brown Act violation that happened in closed session because I didn't attend the closed session. I learned about the Brown Act violation that occurred in closed session through public emails that were provided by the general manager. So to our council, please don't accuse me of violating the Brown Act by speaking about what happened in closed session when I didn't even attend closed session. And furthermore, if a commissioner knows that a Brown Act violation occurred in closed session, they are legally allowed to speak publicly about that Brown Act violation, and they're also allowed to contact the district attorney if they like. I'd also like to follow up on one last thing. I have no criminal record. I have no arrest record. I have no problem with the DA. There have been a lot of allegations that I am a criminal and I have done illegal things and that the DA should, I don't know what, all kinds of like crazy allegations. None of that's true. It's completely false. Thank you.
And I just want to make clear, Commissioner Brennan, I was not accusing you of violating the Brown Act. I just was responding to the comment that there was no report out of closed session because to report so would have been a violation of the Brown Act because there was no reportable action taken. So I didn't want to imply that you had violated the Brown Act. I was explaining why the board did not report out.
Thank you for that. But per the general manager's emails, there was reportable action that took place in closed session. That has been stated in 3 separate emails. We can certainly talk about this in the future, but a law firm was terminated and a retaliation investigation was terminated due to board direction that occurred in closed session that should have been reported out. So I'm sorry, but we disagree on that and we can discuss that later. I guess I'll send you an email.
And we should move on with this. We're conflating a lot of different issues here. And once again, I'm just going to ask the board, since this is your opportunity to speak, to stay on topic. We are discussing the censorship of Commissioner Sabrina Brennan. And Commissioner Lorenz, you have your hand up again.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Well, as I think I will limit my comment to the same thing I said the first time we were doing this. This is a clear retaliation against the commissioner. The board voted a policy to censure and then retroactively decided we're going to censure Sabrina Brennan for something that happened when we had no policy on censure at the time. Censorship should be used, in my view, as a tool to encourage commissioners to behave themselves, not as a retaliation device, which is what we see here. And rehashing it again to allow the how shall we put it, the Mutual Admiration Society that has vested interest against decisions and comments made by Commissioner Brennan is a revisitation of the retaliation that started in the very beginning. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. I think that's all the commissioner comments that I see. I'll just say that for the record, I don't even understand these comments about retaliation. I don't get that at all. I don't understand what we're retaliating against. I don't know what I would be retaliating for, or vested interest or prejudice. I don't understand any of it. I think it's tilting at windmills. We've heard a lot of opinions here tonight on different sides of this issue. I personally haven't heard anything that would change my vote on the censorship of Commissioner Brennan for her actions at our April board meeting. And if the board doesn't take an alternative action right now, resolution number 20-08 will stand. So I don't see any alternative action being entertained, Tricia. I think the previous resolution will stand, and we will move on. Do I need to say anything else about it, or we'll just move on to the next agenda item? Great. All right, so moving on to item number 3, consideration of the current operational status and response to the COVID-19 pandemic. John Morant, can you please give us a report on this?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is an update on the district's continuing actions underway to mitigate the COVID-19 pandemic threat and discuss recommendations to prepare for the July 4th holiday weekend. Currently, since we've reopened, the parking lots at both Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Marina, or Pillar Point Harbor, are fully open to the general public during operational hours. Pillar Point Harbor, Johnson Pier, commercial fishing has continued uninterrupted throughout the entire pandemic challenge, as has the fuel pier. It's remained open and operational as well. Physical at Pillar Point Harbor, the physical off the boat fish sales has been permitted again. Social distancing and face coverings are required. Social distancing lines have been painted on the deck on Johnson Pier as well. Both fishing piers at Oyster Point and Pillar Point are also open to the public. Social distancing lines have been painted on the deck of those fishing piers as well. And by all observations, the public are adhering to the social distancing that we require and wearing face coverings as well. When the few instances where we've observed people getting a little too close, getting out of the boxes that we've painted on the deck at the fishing pier and getting a little close to each other, we have in fact just gone out and and work to educate people on the importance of the social distancing, and everybody has complied. Launch ramps at both Oyster Point and Pillar Point are open to the general public. Commercial fishermen and emergency response agencies have always had access to the launch ramps throughout the pandemic challenges. Public restrooms at both Oyster Point and Pillar Point are open, and all portable toilets at Pillar Point have been reinstalled. The Pillar Point West Trail and the KN RV lot public parking places are also open to the public. The Harbor Master's office at both Oyster Point and Pillar Point Harbor are closed to the public for officer safety, or for the Harbor Patrol officer safety, and for administrative safety, because there's just not ample room inside those small offices to properly socially distance. And there's just simply not any reason to put the public or our staff at greater risk. All business is being conducted over the phone, the VHF radio, and as a last resort, in person, out in open air, observing social distancing and face covering guidelines. At both Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Harbor, a specialized cleaning service has been contracted to clean, sanitize common areas, the harbor master's offices, and the restrooms, including the portable restrooms, twice daily and on call as needed should an exposure occur. At both Oyster Point and Pillar Point, all district staff are required to wear face covering and maintain social distancing as they carry out their duties, and all people on district property are reminded to do so as well. At both Oyster Point and Pillar Point Harbor, we have installed portable hand sanitizing stations throughout common areas. At both Oyster Point and Pillar Point Harbor, we have installed adequate signage to remind the public to wear face coverings and socially distance. Staff diligently watches for challenges and helps educate those that may not understand the importance. Each business at Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Harbor are required to post their safety plan to ensure employees and customers maintain social distancing and wear face coverings, including fishermen engaged in off-the-boat fish sales. With the upcoming July 4th weekend, we are asking the board today to give us direction on how we want to react. Regretfully, California and all but 2 other states have seen significant increases in positive COVID cases over the last few weeks. This has prompted the California governor to issue the closure of state beach access parking lots over the July 4th holiday weekend. Half Moon Bay and Pacifica have also closed beach parking and the beaches under their jurisdictions. However, the fishing pier in Pacifica will remain open. This closure includes the Surfers Beach, which is, of course, adjacent to our eastern district property there at Pillar Point Harbor. Parking on Highway 1 through El Granada will not be closed or restricted by the state. Pillar Point Harbor is not only an operational commercial fishing harbor, it is also used for both beach and trail access, which can contribute to large gatherings of people celebrating over the 3-day holiday on the beaches, and could lead to an even greater increase in positive cases, as the governor fears. With a goal of reducing the opportunity for people to gather on the beach and or trails, it is staff's recommendation that the board authorize the general manager to prohibit beach and trail access parking at Pillar Point Harbor, close the beach between the boat ramp and Surfers Beach on district property, close the West Trail parking lot and beaches within the jurisdiction of the district, close the public parking lot at the KN RV Park adjacent to Surfers Beach, and restrict access to Johnson Pier to tenants and customers only. As discussed above, parking lots at Pillar Point Harbor are used for a variety of activities that are not prohibited by any state or county order. Some are specifically encouraged. Example given is commercial fishing, recreational charter fishing, launch ramp use, kayak rental, restaurant, retail access, etc. Therefore, the main parking lot at Pillar Point Harbor can remain open for these authorized activities. Staff will put up signage, notice on website, and social media to make clear all beach access parking is prohibited at Pillar Point Harbor over the 4th of July weekend, thus meeting the intended goal of reducing crowds from gathering on the Pillar Point Harbor beaches, much like what the City Half Moon Bay is doing for the adjacent Surfers Beach. Therefore, staff recommends a motion for the board to authorize the general manager to prohibit beach and trail access parking at Pillar Point Harbor, close the beach between the boat ramp and Surfers Beach, close the West Trail parking lot and beaches within the jurisdiction of the district, close the public parking lot at the RV park adjacent to Surfers Beach, restrict access to Johnson Pier to tenants and customers only. So begin at midnight on Thursday, July 2nd, 2020, through midnight Sunday, July 5th, 2020, to prevent large crowds from congregating on beaches and reduce COVID-19 transmission during the July 4th holiday weekend.
Thank you so much, John. I see some hands raised in public comment. I'll do public comment and then commissioner comment. James Lee.
Thank you, Board President. I just wanted to emphasize that this is the type of business that special meetings should be spent on. To that point, I hope the board supports the staff report and the staff recommendation. We have reports recently coming out that the San Mateo County DA did not do their due diligence in reporting positive COVID cases within their department. And we're seeing all across California rising case numbers. I'm worried for my mother who's down in Southern California. So this is a huge problem. And the thing about social distancing is you can have all the rules in place, you can have all the lines painted, you can have signs saying wear a mask, but when it comes to people on the beach especially and on trails in public, when they're with family and friends, those rules break down really easily, especially because I don't think the Harbor District has the resources or should have the resources to be policing personal behavior in that way. So please support the staff recommendation and please make sure that special meetings are held for important, urgent business, not petty interboard conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Sherry Ingalls has her hand raised.
You've been unmuted.
Okay, thank you very much. I am the owner of Half Moon Bay Sport Fishing, one of the tenants there at the harbor, and I appreciate what I just heard, that you are doing what you can to restrict the parking. Our general manager, Mr. Pruitt, had sent us an email saying that it would, we were trying to find out exactly what was going to happen, and he had mentioned the idea of restricting. I really appreciate that instead of closing parking, because our business are allowed to operate. Our business are operating as safely as possible. We're mandating masks. We're social distancing. We're especially on our boats where we are requiring people to stay distant, not allow down to our boat until a crew member comes up and greets them.
Capacity.
Yeah, our capacity on our boat, the Queen of Hearts, is 10 people. We're licensed for 39. We're doing everything we can to be as compliant as possible and as safe as possible during this time. And we really appreciate the harbor understanding that. If it came to the point that you did need to do more closures, I just hope you would allow us to do what we need to be able to continue our businesses. There's things that we can continue to do. I offer to have staff at the entrance to the parking lot, like we did back in the Mavericks contest days, that would designate who is allowed to come down, who's not. So there are things to be done to keep that in consideration if this continues down the line. And the last thing I'd have to say is, at our shop, we turned our front door into a service window, and I absolutely abhor the number of people that come up that window without masks. We have a sign right there that says, "Mask, please." And then it says mask required. They don't do it. I would ask the harbor, please step up on the mask required signage.
Thank you. I don't see any more public comments, so we'll move to commissioner comments. And does somebody want to make a motion on this item? Commissioner Brennan. Commissioner Brennan needs to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to move that we approve. I did want to say, though, that I appreciated the public comment. It's very interesting to hear what the experience is like of operating a retail store. So I definitely appreciated that. And I do understand that we have a spike happening right now in the rate of infection, which is definitely very concerning. And I, just for a point of clarification, if our general manager could please let me know. I thought that previously the board had decided that the GM could comply with state and county and city changes as they're occurring. So I'm just wondering if this is actually necessary for us to vote on, even though I just moved to approve. And is it, it just seems like as chaotic as COVID has been and hard to predict, it would seem that we'd want to empower the general manager to respond in a way that's consistent with other agencies in a timely manner without us having to hold a special meeting each time things are changing and the governor releases new orders and so forth. So Jim, if you could help me with that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Brennan. The governor's order was to close state parking lots, or beach access parking lots. Unlike in the county order, they closed their beaches, but there was no specific order where, in similar health orders, where it said to west of I-5 close beach access parking. So the orders weren't as clear and directive as they were in the past. If they were, you are correct. I would have taken that action under prior authority granted by the board to take these actions that I'm recommending now. But because they weren't as directive as before, I believe that it's outside my authority to make these unilateral decisions that have such significant impact on the waterfront and the port without board approval.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. Can I get a second to my motion, by the way? No one seconded.
We haven't had an opportunity to second it. I'm happy to second it. We're going to continue with board discussion. By the way, I do appreciate the fact that staff hustled around to get this in front of us in such a timely fashion. And it is appropriate that the board vote on this as a whole. So thank you for that, Jim. Commissioner Chen Crawley, I see your hand raised.
I think we have another public comment, at least from what I can see in the chat from Cassandra Clark. She says that she's asked for public comment for item number 3. And I think since she's a business, she has a business in the harbor, she should be allotted that time.
Yeah, of course, she's welcome. I don't see her in the chat, but if somebody else does and we can get her on, please do so.
Cassandra, you've been unmuted for comment.
Thank you. Hi. My name is Cassandra Clark. I'm owner of the Maverick Surf Company in the harbor, and I appreciate what the harbor is doing to allow continued access to the harbor. When I got the email last night, I was concerned that there would be a vote to shut down the parking as it had been done previously. And I just wanted to encourage that we work together as business partners in this venture, all of the restaurants and other businesses, that we can work together to allow public access to continue our businesses. We have done our part in ensuring that we meet the county health regulations, but also exceed the CDC recommendations for our sanitation. And we've taken personal responsibility, to make sure that our employees and customers are safe, but we can't succeed if we don't have customers coming into the shop or being able to do curbside delivery. So if we do this again going forward, I would like to go back and revisit what we had put into place with public safety during the contest days, when 25,000 plus people would come down to the harbor, and we wanted to prevent them from all parking in the harbor lot there by putting up a barricade and a checkpoint at the entrance, giving people 2-hour parking permits at the most, and enforcing the parking. When the harbor can enforce parking, it's also revenue generating for the harbor. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to keep our doors open and serve the public, and look forward to continuing this partnership in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I seconded the motion. Oh, I see Commissioner Lorenz, you have your hand up.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'd just like to thank staff for putting together a good recommendation. I know that there's a lot of pressure to move one way or the other. There's a lot of interest in this, and no action that we take is without consequences. And I think you guys have thread the needle pretty well with your recommendation. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Chen Crawley.
Yes, I'd like to thank the staff as well. This is a very tough time, and I think the staff in general has done very well in trying to navigate the difficult environment with COVID-19. So Jim, thank you to you and your staff. I know that we're all trying to, keep the public safe at the same time, trying to make sure that our businesses thrive. I think this is probably the best compromise that we can come up with right now. And I think, Jim, you've done a great job in, trying to find a solution and a happy medium. So I totally support this motion.
Great. I think we're ready for a roll call on this, Melanie.
Commissioner Chen Crawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Great, the motion carries. And we're going to move to the next item under discussion, which is the pulled consent calendar item, minutes from the June 4th special meeting. Commissioner Brennan, you pulled that item. You need to make sure you're unmuted.
There was a delay in getting the message to unmute, so I just wanted to recognize that. I pulled the item because a member of the public asked me to, and I believe there's a member of the public that would like to comment on the minutes. Thank you.
James Lee, that must be you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brennan. Yeah, I requested that this item be pulled because I noticed looking through the minutes that despite the multiple comments that were given at the June 4th special meeting, none of those comments, neither in full or in summary, made it into the meeting minutes. It's been past practice to have at least, generally for more controversial meetings or agenda items, public comment has been summarized in general fashion. For other items, they've been more detailed. But for this particular meeting agenda, there's nothing. So I just wanted to make a note of that. And I would request that commissioners ask for the meeting minutes to be properly updated before they are approved. I realize now is a difficult time with COVID, but again, that was a special meeting. There were quite a few commenters, but it wasn't a lot. It was a special meeting. It wasn't very well attended. And I think at least the general gist of people's comments could be included in that. If the board decides not to go that route, I just wanted to point out that during that meeting, Bud Ratz spoke and was cut off from giving his complete public comment. John Ullum spoke and was prevented from giving his complete public comment. Elise Dixon spoke, speaking out against the censure item. And Diane Stowe, a friend of Nancy Ryring's, also spoke out against the censure item, though she noted that she also agreed that Commissioner Brennan's behavior was not becoming. She said that the process was still unacceptable and not appropriate for the board to take action on. So I just wanted to make sure that these names are heard and recorded, and I hope that the board makes that motion. Thank you.
Great. Any other, Commissioner Brennan, you have a comment?
Yes, I wanted to comment that I asked our general manager to attach an email to the minutes, which included a transcript of my remarks at the meeting that the minutes are for, and that wasn't done. So for that reason, and also for the concerns regarding the lack of a list of commenters and their position, which has been our past practice for minutes, that we record a list of who commented and, you know, a summary of their comment, support or oppose, or sometimes more detail. Since that's not been included, I'm not going to vote to approve the minutes. So I just wanted to communicate that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve these minutes, and I will just add that I am confident that they've been prepared, well prepared, that they are prepared according to Brown Act guidelines. And Melanie, I'd like to take a roll call on this item.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You've been unmuted.
Commissioner Lorenz? I can't hear him.
You need to say it again, Ed.
No.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan?
No.
Commissioner Chang Crawley?
Aye.
Great. And we're moving, so that motion carries, and we're moving to future agenda items. Does anybody have future agenda items they'd like to place on the agenda? It looks like we don't, so then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Chang Crawley?
So moved.
I'll second that motion. Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.